recording started a little earlier than the actual live play. We're learning how this works on the fly. I hope you'll take the ride with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this recording. We do this show live. We try to make it around 7 p.m. Pacific on Mondays and Thursdays. We're starting at 7:36 today, a little late. We had some pre-calls. Just the problem is when you have a group like ours, you just enjoy talking to each other. I don't know if you guys know that. I just enjoy talking to y'all so much that like when we get into pre-call, it's like 30 minutes late, and here we are. But hopefully we can bring that across.
Where did the time go?
Where did the time go? It is so true. It's so true. Till my wife comes in, waving her finger in the air, telling to wrap it up. And I'm like, we didn't even start the show yet. And she's like, oh, you're in trouble. Anyways, it's kind of like my natural state. Speaking of being in trouble, we are going to talk about BA.3.2. If you're a long COVID advocate, we are like a progressive show, the COVID advocacy, like public health advocacy with a focus on COVID, vaccines, all sorts of stuff. But we're getting into vaccine selection time, and our group has helped pick the variant. So if we get involved this year, it'll be our 4th year, right? So we've done it like every time but the one time where the public wasn't allowed to be involved. And we've been pretty successful. Always gotten the right variant. And I've gotten a couple things wrong, but usually more things right. Those presentations are available for people to read if they want to take a look at them, but they're a product of the group. A lot of times I'm making them now, but it really is a teamwork to get us there. And so, but speaking of not recognizing teamwork, Trump fired Pam Bondi today, which, I mean, so the story itself seems wild, and I want to share this with everybody before we go any further. But basically, they were saving October surprise. So an October surprise is when you drop something at like the end of an election. And so Swalwell is the state rep from California who's running for governor, and he's viewed as the like leader of the pack. And I'm not. The California's governor's race is already a mess. And if a Democrat actually makes it to November, I'll be pretty happy, because there's a lot of concern right now that because we use a jungle primary, which is the worst term in existence. Not in existence, but it's up there. It is basically when everyone runs together and the 2 highest votes come out. And if there's a lot of Democrats...
And there's too many Democrats in the race, and if they don't get their shit together and consolidate, they're going to all split the vote and get out, and there'll be 2 Republicans running.
Which has happened. This has happened. This is how Arnold Schwarzenegger got elected. I mean, he was also Arnold Schwarzenegger, so that probably helped. But... he was a Republican, and it was an exact same open primary, split results. I don't know if it was actually a jungle primary back then, but it was the same idea with just the vote getting split by so many Democrats and fewer Republicans. So that's the thing. But basically, it was an October surprise that they were holding on to because Swalwell had a brief relationship. And I don't want to be on, like, I'm on, like, Swalwell, like... repair his... I don't give a shit. This is just the story as I understand it's developing today. Because he just told her she was getting fired when he walked in to do his speech. When he walked the other day, which I don't know if anyone saw the price of oil, but let's just say Trump's talking is probably the single most impactful thing on inflation in existence, because inflation is actually... I talk a lot about inflation, but it's really normally in a traditional system driven by the price of crude oil. So if you talking makes the price, but we had fixed that wasn't a problem we had anymore. Crude oil was at a very reasonable price in the sense of traditional costs. So coming back to it, every time Trump talks, inflation goes up because the price of crude oil goes up, and so him talking is literally costing us all money.
He keeps on... I mean, it seems like his number one concern with this war situation is the markets, and him trying to say something that sort of, alters the price in a positive way. And it's fine. It's starting to like backfire, where anything he says is like making the prices go higher.
Yeah.
There's somebody's making money. There's speculation going on.
It's Iran.
Yeah.
Iran is making all the money. I mean, they're making
them too, yeah.
They're making money hand over fist on this, and but anyways, going back to the Swalwell story. So Trump, somehow, the information gets leaked to Swalwell that they're preserving this October surprise, which has to stay a secret, and someone probably at the FBI blamed Pam Bondi, claiming that those two have a relationship in some way, and they threw her under the bus. And Swalwell has come out that it was someone at the FBI that told him. So that's the thing that I think that's also really important to remember. Swalwell has made a statement on this. He didn't know the person very well. When he found out she might have been a Chinese... Basically, the idea is she might be a Chinese spy. She wanted her name Fang Fang. Christine Fang, I think it was. And so she was trying to make the same move. What did you guys compare it to? The girl at the NRA? That was the Russian...
Maria Butina.
Right. So it's kind of like a honeypot scheme that they were trying to get Democrats, which is 2011, 2015 sort of era. And I don't know what the full story on that is, but they were trying to use it against him to sway the final vote in November. And so it came out early, and they lost that thing, and someone blamed Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi took the fall for it, though we're learning it was someone at the FBI. So, you know what we forgot to talk about, actually, on the last call? Speaking of people at the FBI who are throwing Pam Bondi under the bus, Kash Patel's email got hacked.
Oh.
Did you hear about
Again.
that? No. Just it was like we forgot to talk about it last call. No. I think just the one time. But his entire...
No, but I think this is the second time his email's gotten hacked.
Is it the second time?
In general.
Well, they released his stuff like the Epstein files, and it included his... what are they calling it? His Gooner account, which is the phrase they use now to make it not like, porno. But basically, he... Was it Spider Cash or something like that? He had some sort of nickname that he was using across multiple accounts, so they're able to track him to all the accounts he was using the same name at. And it's just like, they were like, this his I think it's an Xvideos account or one of these porno accounts, and it was active that day. So we went and looked at it, it was active that day. And so I just feel like I would like to believe that if we're gonna have somebody that's in charge of any type of intelligence, they're not the type of person to have a signed up porno account. What's more American than secret porn accounts? Thank you.
The idea that somebody's hacking the head of the FBI.
His personal Google account too. Who knows what's
really...
in it? Well, you know what? You know what is refreshing? I'll give the guy this. He had pictures of him with him looking like not a lunatic. He actually had pictures of him. He looked normal. I was like, why didn't he make that face all the time? That looks fine. It was normal. I was probably stoned off his ass or something. But I feel like I want to say something positive about this. Is that there wasn't national secrets in there. All these other guys that keep getting their stuff leaked, they're telling their family members when secret attacks are going to happen and stuff.
Right.
So to be fair, I did kind of find that sort of pleasant. I was like, wow,
this was like a recreational leak.
Cute.
It wasn't like state secrets.
Yeah, exactly. He's in Cuba a lot. He likes cigars, apparently. It is more like, oh, look at him. Spidey Cash, whatever.
It shows his other side.
Yeah, exactly. The other guys who are it's so refreshing from figuring out Trump actually did, the story of the girl who bit his junk is now been corroborated further. So that story seems like it's more and more relevant, which is, I don't want that thought in my head, but it seems like it's necessary right now because, and that's actually kind of, when you think about people not liking Trump and oil prices, all the people who control oil have to do is just drive the prices harder, and we're just going to hurt more and going to hate Trump more, and the Republicans are going to lose even harder, and we're going to have regime change in America, or America is going to, or Trump, the American government in power now, is going to rig the elections, which they are desperately trying to do, and then America's gone. And then I think that we were talking about this on the pre-call, that we're looking at we talk about what's it called, petrodollar, right? That we might see an increase in petrodollar use or some other type of fiat currency controlled by another body, because America's I think a lost cause. So I do think America actually, if you enjoy American life, I do feel like we're at a really important tipping point in this election cycle, more than usual. Like, I'm gonna be like, whoever makes it to the primary, through the primary, it's a vote blue no matter who this year, because no Republican should win. I'm not usually of that stance, but this year it's like, no, super important. Even if they're shitty, I'd rather deal with a shitty Democrat than any Republican any day of the week right now. So if it's replacing a Republican, I don't care who it is. But if it's in a primary, it should be the most progressive person that we can get. Which I was making some noise about a particular San Francisco race, and I was pleasantly surprised to figure out that Connie Chan is an ultra progressive for the most part. She's, of course, soft on a couple things because it's San Francisco ultra progressive. But there's this article going around. There's this guy named Saikat Chakrabarty. And if you've been on my feed for the last 24 hours, I have been making a stink about a lot of past Bernie-related stuff. But it's fun because it's also validating because it's time to put up some receipts. A lot of people don't believe me for some reason for all the stuff that is going. It's like, I don't think anyone has as much trouble explaining their resume as I do. But, like, you know, this guy was, like, really problematic and really troubling and caused a lot of... Like, I can even say this because we have physical evidence of it. It's not even, like, take me to court for slander. Like, please. Like, then I'll just prove more in a court of law. And, like, I just... Like, this is such an important thing where they're trying to say, oh, another progressive darling is being shut out by the big, mean establishment. And I just want to say, in this case, no, absolutely not. And I want, really important, you see this guy around trying to create steam and do it all. You can't trust anything this guy says. That's really important. It happens in politics. He's not like Fetterman, right? We watched Fetterman. I don't know if you guys were here when Fetterman was getting elected. Like, I thought from far away, he was a full-blown progressive. And then people, my delegates from PA call me, and they're like, absolutely not. Do not support this guy. But it was already too late. He was already through the primary. He already tricked us. And this is another really key example. Luckily, you're back to the top two primary. So it's between a guy named, I think his name is Weiner, and Connie Chan. I kept calling her, it's Chan. I was not Chung. That's the news reporter that I was confusing it with because I'm terrible with names. Her name's Connie Chan, and so I can make a full-throated endorsement of her. Like, she may not be a perfectly progressive candidate, but she's on the right side of all of the things, all the way up to Gaza, and calling it a genocide. But even though, making all the right decisions, this is the type of person we want in a federal election. So I'm just going to put that out there on a side note because it is California and these elections are 2 months away. And we got to figure out, like, the governor's race because if they split it too much, it's going to be a huge mess.
But that race is Nancy Pelosi's seat, right?
Yes, it's Nancy Pelosi's seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Weiner is the guy to beat. Weiner has been, I think his name is Weiner, but it's not the one that was involved with all the sex scandals. It's a different one. He's a state senator.
That's Anthony Weiner.
Yeah, it's not Anthony Weiner. It's a different Weiner.
It's another Weiner.
That's what we need, less Wieners in politics. Anyways.
That's a bumper sticker.
Oh my god.
Less Wieners in politics.
Less Wieners in politics. Anyways. Yeah, the woman, she's I can't remember what her exact position was now off the top of my head. I need to take better notes. But she seems all right. I'd rather that happen, and don't let people like gaslight you into thinking this guy did all this stuff. I actually just found out. So like back in the day, his whole shtick. So he was part of the outreach team or volunteer, I guess. I thought he was a staff member. Part of the team that got released after Florida, and then he immediately goes in March. They immediately go and file their PAC in April. Then they start doing a national tour, and they ended up in LA, of course, where I am, and I was the California state lead running all kinds of stuff, so I was in the midst of all this, still in the heat of the primary. So I was kind of important for like a heartbeat. And so I remember meeting them and like talking to them and all sorts of stuff. And we were going to get together and try to work on what they were doing because it sounded kind of interesting. They were doing brand new Congress. But it was under the pretense that these were former Bernie staffers. And he got a bunch of credibility, and the group did, because they were staffers, not volunteers. They were not staffers. They were fucking volunteers. I just found out yesterday. And I'm just like, oh, God, that hurts. Because it was like a numerous times you'd have to take like a back seat because people would be like, no, but they were staffers, Dawn. You're just a volunteer. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm basically leading this whole thing. And they're like, it doesn't matter. You gotta listen to the team. And then they all got thrown under the bus by the staffers. So that worked out. But in this particular case, like, just the way it goes is I just keep discovering, and this is a matter of my opinion, so I get to say this, that it's just, you just catch these people lying and lying and lying. These are not the people we need to put into Congress. I don't care if they have the exact right policy. I just want someone who's going to be honest about their policy and who they are and what they've done, and that is not the case here. So I can't believe I actually committed a bit of my show to that, but it is on my mind and bothering the crap out of me. They keep saying how he worked for AOC, and like he also got like had to quit AOC's or caught in a big ass scandal. Anyways, he was basically what they were doing. Just to say real fast, they were sending money. They had 2 PACs that were fundraising at the same time from the same people, not telling people that they were the same PAC, and then they were taking half the money going into Justice Democrats and sending it to Brand New Congress. And I was posting the things, and that's illegal. 2 different PACs and not saying you're the same PAC and fundraising off the same people and then putting that money into one account is illegal. But all that they did is they ran out the statute of limitations. Yeah, her name is Connie Chan, Supervisor Connie Chan, and State Senator Scott Wiener. So I think if you're going to support someone in this race, I think Connie Chan is the person to win. She kind of came out of nowhere, but she's won elections. Also, Asian communities are a really powerful voting bloc. So, I feel like CyCat, if anything, is only weakening Connie Chan. And then, but it's a top 2. So as long as she makes top 2, because if CyCat is top 2, it's going to be Scott Wiener. There's no way he beats out an institution candidate who has like a huge backing in the district and a giant war chest. There's no way. And again, you're back to CyCat soaking up a bunch of money that should go to candidates. That's what Justice Democrats did that was so annoying. We had all these candidates who needed money. They took all this money saying we're going to give it to candidates, but there was no legal method for them to give the money to candidates. And even their excuse about trying to start the other group is like, we started a private group to circumvent the law. And you're like, so you're just admitting you broke the law, but you didn't steal the money. You circumvented the law. And it's like they admitted to a lesser crime, and the whole thing's so gross. So I have a huge problem with it because we're at California politics, and this guy is like, him and his buddy, I'm not sure which one is more responsible. They just really like straight to my face, we're going to take credit for your work. And by my face, we were on the phone, but that's telling me directly they're going to do it, and there's nothing I can do about it. And very rapey, if you ask me. Very rapey. We're just gonna steal this from you and fuck you over. My wife almost left me. It was a whole thing. So I want to pivot. I'm gonna pivot here and get away from this. I want to talk about this mRNA study that got canceled. Excuse me. mRNA is not the right. Should I call it the mRNA studies? It was for all the vaccines, right? The COVID vaccines. They removed the study. What was the actual details, Biff? I forget. It was an age thing. Are you there? Anybody? I called him in too randomly. What
are you talking about?
There it is. The vaccine, the mRNA study. What were the limitations on it they were looking for again? The one that the vaccine manufacturers pulled out of?
50 to 64.
Right.
The age range, but it was only Pfizer. It wasn't all 3 are mRNA manufacturers.
Oh, it wasn't. I thought they were talking about Moderna and Pfizer pulling out of the study.
No, it was just Pfizer. Well, it's not that they're all part of one study. They each have to do their own. So this was about Pfizer's study.
Okay. Well, this is exactly why we double checked.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are saying that they said that they couldn't find participants, right? And I think they just don't feel like they need to do it. So, I also think you made a really good point, though. You were saying about how pre-call, which I should just let you make now, but here we go. About how why did you think people would have a hard time finding people? Like, what was your reasoning behind it? Because it was smart, and I don't remember exactly.
Right. Because from my perspective, you have at this point, you have 2 groups of people, and everyone has a strong opinion on vaccination. You have one group who is just, at this point, never going to get the vaccine if they haven't gotten it. And then the group of people that are getting vaccinated, they believe in the vaccine, and they can just go to the pharmacy and get it. So they have no incentive to enroll in a trial where they might be given a placebo when they can just get the vaccine already.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And like you said, you did mention if they really needed this to happen. I mean, there's ways around that. Then that's when you start paying people
Right. If they really
to have them
felt
join.
like they needed
So,
to
so I
do
mean,
it.
you can accomplish it.
Right. If they really felt like they needed to do it, if there was like a win for them here, they would figure out how to get it done. And I just feel like they don't need to do it. Whether it's RFK losing power because of ACIP getting wiped out, or Vinay Prasad is out again. He's officially out. Do they have a new person at
He's out.
CBER? I don't know if he
They
officially.
don't
don't
have
think-
a new person, but he's
I
out.
don't think he's not officially out because it's very voluntary. He said he was going to leave like at the end of April, I believe. So not even officially yet.
He'll leave already.
Well, they need to get someone to replace him. I mean, they've completely run out of people. They're like literally out of bodies. Like, no wonder these guys need AI so badly. You know.
It didn't seem to stop them in any other agency not having a replacement.
Well, we got that really bad report. I don't know who wants to talk about this, but there was some testing that was stopped. We didn't talk about this in pre-call at all. But they're stopping rabies testing. Maybe, Beth, you know, because you were the one talking about this in staff chat, but it was, we're not doing rabies testing anymore, and we're not doing another type of testing. And I'm just like, how do we even have a CDC anymore? Like,
Yeah, there are a lot of tests
Yeah.
that it sounds like CDC is. It sounds like they're officially saying it's a pause, but basically all these tests that they help out local health departments with, because these teams have just been decimated at the CDC. There's hardly anyone left at them apparently.
yeah, it seems like the CDC, like, we need to talk about what's going on there, because some of the things are working still, but are they automated? Like, the wastewater data comes in and gets fed into the stuff. We're still getting that information. It's not coming in great, but it's coming in. Like, where's the like, we need to really get a better idea on who is actually there and who isn't, because if they're cutting like rabies testing, we joked about this, about anti-vaxxers telling people that not to get rabies vaccines, and I
God
don't,
help us.
I don't think it's a joke anymore, guys. Like, I'm very concerned. I don't think it's a joke anymore. I think that we have gotten to the point now where it's sort of like they've gone so anti-vax, so like, oh no, rabies vaccines are bad too.
Natural immunity to rabies.
Yeah.
There is one single case ever of a woman who supposedly survived rabies, and there is a ton of asterisks and questions and statements people make when you mention it. Well, actually, she was da 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 da, and how it's not quite exactly the same. And I haven't really investigated. I'm just kind of like, well, I'll still say 99.9999% fatal over 100% fatal. Like, that's fine. That's still, like, I'm not 0.001 at anything, so why would I be the guy who beats rabies? But rabies is 100% fatal, and our vaccines are pretty much 100% effective, right? Like, nobody gets rabies after getting the vaccine if they get it within time. I've never heard of somebody like the vaccine failing to work on them, right? I mean, I suppose if you're immune compromised in some way or something, just...
Who knows now with what COVID's done to everybody's immune system? We'll see.
Oh, Jesus, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I know, that's true. That's such an interesting thing.
I'm looking at the list here of testing they're stopping. Monkeypox, Epstein-Barr, varicella zoster, pox, yeah, that's monkeypox, adenovirus, Orokuchi virus, which is actually starting to appear in Florida. It's a tropical disease. Oh, this is going to be great.
This is actually way worse than I thought. I remember just kind of seeing this as like a fleeting headline, and our long list of headlines just occurred to me when we were talking about the agencies not
Fungal
working.
identification? I hope they don't mean all fungal, because that damn, Jeff, that damn new fungal infection is wiping out everybody. Oh well, whatever, we're fine.
Oh my god. You can really hear the Florida in her voice, the just giving up in general. She's like, whatever, fine, okay, it's getting worse again. I guess we're just all gonna have rabies now. Natural immunity. Oh god, hurts to say.
Golden age of America.
Oh my god. I feel like it's so important to say that all the gold Trump has is fake gold. So so I feel like we should call it like the pyrite age of America or something. Like it's not like it's the golden age.
Trump is fool's gold.
Yeah, it's the golden age, but it's everything's just spray painted gold.
Right.
Oh my god! And the guy's huffing it in the corner. Oh my god! By the way, if you don't know, that's the best huffing paint I learned from watching an episode of Cops.
He has like two tents in the White House. One where he goes in to get sprayed orange, and then another one where his stuff goes in to get sprayed gold.
I mean, isn't he breathing? You're supposed to put like nose stuff in, but I wonder if Trump is like breathing that stuff in, like he's in too big of a rush, and they're just like, like he just like, no, it's fine, I'll breathe it in, because it definitely seems like he's been breathing in something he's not supposed to. And okay, another good one. Here's another good one that just happened. If you aren't paying attention to the news, which you'd have to be under a rock for this one, I think Trump is going to lose the birthright citizenship case. Like I think Trump is going to lose. I think that like is a really good chance that Trump loses this thing because Terry, I believe you said the greatest line that happened from Chief Roberts.
Oh, John Roberts.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Solicitor General was talking about birth tourism and how people come to America to have babies, so they'll be American citizens. And Roberts said, "Well, that's really not too relevant. I don't think when the amendment was drafted in the 19th century." So, and the Solicitor General said, "Yeah, but it's a different world now." And Roberts said, "It's a different world, but it's the same old Constitution."
I just wonder what they were so afraid of.
Great line, and I don't even like him.
Yeah, that one's slammed. I don't like him either. And that was like, yeah, finally. I feel like Trump, and I feel like the mRNA study is real important to bring in here because they just don't feel like they need to do it. Whether it's they need the thing or not. Because also, remember, we're all on like self-identification systems. So they don't actually need the extra group to not have the warning on it because people can just access them anyways. But like, they just don't feel like they need to do it. And I feel like with the Supreme Court, they just don't feel like Trump should be given more power. Like they gave Trump unlimited power, and he just basically destroyed the planet. I mean, basically, pretty much.
Yeah. This one's just so fundamental to the.
Except for Alito, he's still all for it.
Yeah, he'll get one at least. He might. I think he could get as many as 3, but I think 2 is going to be the official. I think 2 is going to be because he might get Kavanaugh
There's such as
too.
a no. Going to get Kavanaugh either. One of the other things that the Solicitor General argued is like he talked about no other country has birthright citizenship, and Kavanaugh said, "Oh, why are we even talking about other countries and what they have? We decide American cases based on American law, not what other countries do or don't do."
Well, it's the same thing they were saying about the vaccines. Other countries don't have the thing. Yeah, but there are other countries that have other rules with other stuff that have other things. They're frankly, in some ways,
it could be a no. I think after that little exchange about Native Americans, Gorsuch is a no.
Oh yeah, he's a no for sure. That was what I learned that I thought was really interesting. Is he has an incredible soft spot for Native Americans. So he's always like, in any capacity, how is this going to affect the Native American population? And if you don't have a good answer ready to go, because what did the guy say? He said, "I'll have to get back to you on that" or something. And you're like, It's Supreme Court. It's the day.
Would children of Native Americans have birthright citizenship?
Yeah.
I think so.
I've also learned
on that.
We've been going back and looking at, because you remember the 14th Amendment historically is not that long ago. We have perfectly fine records from all the debate that occurred, and this issue was widely debated across the board, and it was like all the points they're trying to make now were brought up during the formation of the amendment. So it's not like these are new arguments. They're literally, it's like you're in a lawsuit with somebody across states and they're arguing jurisdiction again, except it's been 165 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 165 years and they're still fighting with you over who has the right to oversee this idea that we already agreed to. So you already lost this argument, guys. And that's the problem with these
Isn't that called stare decisis?
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah.
You're teaching me things. You're teaching
me
things.
That is. I mean, yeah.
No, that's...
Terry.
What's it called? Say it again.
Lawyer.
Stare decisis. Basically, it's precedent.
Okay.
You rely on the precedent.
Okay. Yeah. I'm familiar with that idea. I just didn't know that. I didn't know the name for it.
Like a law is already decided and on the books. It's decided law, right? You can't. You can't change just to re-argue this thing that was just like you said that was already decided
Yeah.
into law.
Yeah, we voted on this a long time ago, and they're like, well, we want to revisit it, and you're like, no. No. How about no? And I feel like actually it's such a dramatic loss of power from when they accepted this case to when they heard the case. Do you know what I mean? Like there's such a you can see the absolute shift in people in the Supreme Court feeling like they have to kowtow to Trump. Also, Trump showed up, first president in history to show up to Supreme Court hearings, which he fall asleep and leave halfway through or something. I know he left.
He left
early.
halfway through it. He left after the Solicitor General's case. He didn't listen to the rest of it. And from what I heard, there was great relief because
Well, I mean, the Solicitor General did not make a very good case. I mean, he fired Pam Bondi. And I'm surprised. Well, wait, does Pam Bondi oversee the Solicitor General? She does, right? Doesn't she?
Yeah.
So
Department of Justice. Yeah.
That firing could all be associated to that too.
Has there been any other time in history where the president shows up at a Supreme Court?
I keep hearing no.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
No, I keep hearing no. It's supposed to be part of the checks and balances, but it's back to that good faith thing we always talk about. So much of our government was based on people doing things in good faith. And so good faith is just you don't show up to a Supreme Court hearing. If the Supreme Court rules against you, you just agree with it because it's defined law, because we all agree on these rules and we live within these rules.
You don't go there and sit there and try to intimidate them like a mob boss.
Well, I feel like that's where the right-wing MAGA movement has just totally lost the plot, because they're in an alternate dimension believing the stupidest bullshit, they're eating people's dogs and stuff. They come up with just these ideas that are just so out there. And at a certain point, when you believe these things for long enough, you're literally living in an alternate dimension where things mean different things than they should mean. And that's kind of happening in the COVID conscious community, because I'm going to pivot from this to BA32 in a second once we're done talking about it, because there's a lot of alternate dimensioning going on with BA32, and it makes me feel it makes me sound like I'm minimizing, when in reality all the people talking about BA32 are minimizing. And I feel like this is a constant problem we have, where people just are not thinking about things in a well thought out, what are the long-term ramifications for this? And you end up in these parallel spaces where you think that these factors and these factors add up to these things. And I feel like Trump is high on his own supply. You know what I mean? Which is probably why he wants to take over South America too. It's just because supply is too damn expensive. Because he's just on a whole other realm of reality. The stuff he's saying is just who told him this? Whose world are we listening to when he talks? It's not the one that I'm aware of. Kind of makes me question a lot of things. So thank you everyone for hanging in there. I am going to pivot here. Does anyone have anything else they want to say with Trump and Iran? What about Iran? Is anything you want to throw in with Iran before we pivot here, Jesse? Because he's getting his here. Actually, I have a question for you. Can you call it World War III if everyone in the world is backing out of supporting you?
Well, it's yet to be seen, I guess, who's going to be supporting who. But I mean, it does affect the entire world.
I think Spain is out, UK is out. Didn't France pull their airports and stuff like that too?
Spain and so I did hear Spain.
Did you see Starmer's message?
Yeah, but I believe he's still letting them use his.
He's just saying that. Yeah, he was straight up this isn't our war, and he said negative stuff about Israel even, but without saying Israel, he called it a foreign power or something like that, and a funny way of saying it, because he's a self-avowed Zionist himself, but privately we have video, so I mean whatever, it's a real thing. But I mean, continue your thought though. But I do feel like we're seeing a lot of people drop out, but also a lot of boat movement at the same time.
Yeah, it affects the whole world. But yeah, Trump is he's all over the map. Yesterday, April Fool's Day, he gave that speech. I was calling it the Fool's speech. But yeah, in the morning, he basically did one of those.
Is he aware it's April Fool's Day? That's what I want to know. Anyways, continue.
He never comes out at the end and says, it was a prank. He just he just keeps going with it. But yeah, he did a truth where he said. He was talking about that the new regime's president is less radicalized than its predecessors. Well,
His son?
there is no new president. It's the same president.
Oh, right, because the president didn't change. The Ayatollah changed, but the president didn't.
Yeah, and even if he was talking about that, is that a less radicalized person? I would argue maybe not.
I don't know if you had the chance to read the letter from the Iranian president, but I did, and it's 4 pages of. I gotta say, it's pretty beautifully written. It was kind of like, I was like, wow, this guy is like, he's like basically like, we've never attacked anyone. Fuck around and find out. Basically, and I think he's also trying to take away the whole, because I think he released it in advance of like, and they're going to attack America. And then he's like, we don't want to do that. We have no interest in fighting the American people. This idiot is basically the problem.
That's Pezeshkian. That's the Iranian president. That is the president, the new and the old president.
right. And I'm not pro Iran at all. I feel like they have terrible human rights issues, but they were getting better. And we did find out that a lot of those, like, so many people got killed was driven by there's this whole connection to Mossad agents trying to drive regime change, and they even admitted to it as part of, they were pushing Trump to try to bomb Iran back then, and they were trying to use this to create enough, like they've come out and said they did it, so it's not like some anti-Semitic slur to be like Mossad was involved with that. They were like, well, we tried, but it didn't work, and we got to do it 2 months later. And
yeah, Mike Pompeo said it at the time.
Right,
he said it on Twitter about we have Mossad on the ground there. So, I don't know how deep of a influence that was, but it definitely, I'm sure they definitely were trying to stoke, those kind of, what do they call that? Color revolution kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
you're going to learn all kinds of fun phrases here on Brace for Impact.
But yeah, Trump was all over the map yesterday. Like he then gave the speech and it was like
Didn't we win the war and then lose the war and then win the war again? And then now we won the war twice more, and or was that the day before that? We're
winning, we're decimating them, but we're going to be there for another 2 or 3 weeks, and they better come to the table and negotiate. And if they don't, we're going to send them back to the Stone Ages. That's what he said, Stone Ages. Where they belong, and take out the electric infrastructure and their oil. We could take out their oil if we want. Just basically like threatening war crimes over and over again.
Does he know that the immunity the Supreme Court gave him doesn't count in a world court?
I don't know what he thinks, but that's like what you were talking about.
Optimistic to think he's thinking, but go ahead.
He's just so all over the map, and I think that the markets are not.
Oh yeah, they're not having it. No.
Yeah, they see what he's doing. Like it doesn't even really make any kind of sense at all.
I think the thing that people need to understand about the stock market is how much it's built around a concept called futures. You know what I mean? Like, how is the future going to bring, and they try to plan for the future and eat costs before they come, so they make more profit now before the cost comes, so that they don't lose their overall base profit. So they're going to do the thing. So like, you could have the perception of prices going up, and prices will go up in advance of them actually needing to go up in order to eat that loss when they do need to go up. And so the stock is trying to guess what is going to go where, and where they're going to need to eat losses or make up losses. And so wow, it was that chart of like every time he talked about certain things, it would shoot up, and then once gas prices go up, if you watch the daily stock of oil, which I don't know a ton about, but I understand short selling, it goes up a little bit. People buy, it goes up. They sell, it goes down. They buy again, it goes up. That's basically the gist of it. And you get that sort of process happening where people are buying and selling, and it's going to artificially keep prices high for a little bit. So even if we found a solution for this, the stock people have started making money on the chaos, because up, down, up, down, up, down, no one knows. So the day traders start coming in, and then that's when they perpetuate the problem, because that's just what happens. It's up, down, up, down. So stabilizing this is going to require some type of government action to stop that from happening, and it's going to require like supply increasing a lot. But even when supply increases a lot, we think of these things all being naturally entangled, but like in the last couple of years we've really learned that the stock market and like what is actually happening on the ground are like two completely different things. So like you could have a ton of supply come in and there's a ton of oil, but the price of oil could still be all over the place if people are trying to make money off of it. So
yeah,
it's not good.
But you know how he's been. You know how he was. The original threat was, you know, it was 48 hours, and then it was 5 days, and then it was 10 days to April 6th. And that threat was always that they better open the Straits of Hormuz, or we're gonna, you know, do these war crimes to them. We're gonna bomb their infrastructure and take all this stuff.
Yeah, attacking the desalination plants is like abhorrent to hear. You're like, are you kidding me? You're taking away their water.
Yeah, he said that. He said that in the speech. But the other thing he said in the speech was that we don't care about the Straits of Hormuz, that we don't really get our oil from the Straits of Hormuz, but Europe does. And if they want it, they should just go in and take it.
Does he understand that the products that we make get from like India and China, less China, more like India, and more used oil from the Strait of Hormuz? Does he understand that like the production process uses a lot of oil, and those people are all going to have things cost more, and there's going to be like this guy does not like. I just don't.
It's a world oil market.
He's so fucking stupid.
It's a world oil market. It's not just like we use it or they use it, or it's.
And does he understand how many products use it? Like a lot of medications.
Yeah, the medication thing.
Drug shortages.
Tylenol and Advil, like I think Tylenol has like mostly comes from oil and stuff like that. Like it's
you know, another one that does, this will be fun for people, benzodiazepines like Xanax and Ativan.
Oh, great.
They're derived from petroleum products. That is true.
Yep. And aluminum and helium.
Oh, you mean
and
aluminum? Aluminum?
No more MRIs.
Oh, aluminium?
Yeah, there is aluminium. Sorry. You can't say aluminum without me saying
aluminium.
Aluminium.
Yeah,
Sorry,
this is
nothing wrong with saying it that way.
Not just driving your car around in the USA. This is a world problem.
Right, and then we're going to run into fuel. Jet fuel is going to become a big issue. It already is becoming a big issue. So you're into like jet fuel is going to thing, and then when jet fuel can't get moved around, then planes don't move, and then we're not going to have like travel to Europe. Which, I mean, I'm not traveling to Europe, but I feel like we should have traveled to Europe. So I feel like it's like we made a lot of jokes, so they're trying to set us back to 1860s because that's when the Civil War was won. And I feel like they're really trying that in like transportation, how we use. Like soon they're going to be like, you don't need a car. Have you considered getting a horse?
Certain countries are already rationing.
Yeah.
You know, because of this, and it could cause famine. I mean, this is in certain parts of the world.
We are going to start having food problems.
Yeah, World War. To tie that back around to the initial question.
Yeah. So that's really there's just it's hard to understand the extent to what like how far the damage of this is going to be and long lasting. Like I think that this is really just I think people don't really understand how bad this could get, and I don't think there's any incentive for anyone to make it not as bad as it could be. Like there's only incentive to twist the thumb screws, because if you want to get regime change in America, all we have to do is make oil more expensive, and it will be only a matter of time until people literally cannot survive. Because we're already capitalism has already pushed people to a tipping point. So the one good thing coming out of all this is that they have bungled the college. This is a random pivot, and I'm only saying this for one second. But the college debt, all the debt people have from going to school from the government, they have bungled that whole Department of Education switch so badly that there's no one to get your original debt documents anymore, and you can just get your debt removed because they can't provide the documentation of its existence. Because if you challenge So if you challenge debt, they have a certain amount of time to respond with the original. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the original core paperwork that you sign, and it's like their receipt that you agreed to pay this money. They can't have a copy of it. They can't have a version of it. They can't have a debt number. They need this actual document. And because they fired so many people and removed the Department of Education, there's no one to get that document for them anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So it's up to an individual to like go and ask specifically for this document.
Yeah, it's like a whole process. I mean, I don't know a lot of details about it to be really specific, but yeah, there's a process. So you have debt. They have a receipt of your debt. They need to have that physical receipt to keep that debt on your credit score. If you go to the credit companies, which are independent agencies, and say, which is not necessarily good or bad, it's kind of bad, but it can be good in some instances. They're independent agencies, so you go to those independent agencies who have agreements with you and the debtors that certain documents have to be there to prove a debt. So if you can go and challenge that debt and they do not provide the documents to those debt agencies in a specific amount of time, that debt gets removed from your credit report. And you could argue that debt still exists, but it's no longer impacting your credit. So, like, I have an old ticket from when I was touring all the time. Like, technically, I get a thing from, an agency every so often being like, hey, they're trying to get they stopped sending them a long time ago because it's been so long. It's like 10 years ago. But they would send me this thing, be like, you owe $200 for this thing. And if they collect that money, they pay, like, they bought my debt. But if they don't have the original debtor document, they can't go to the DMV and have my driver's license suspended. You have to have that original thing. It's a little different when it has speeding tickets, but it's the same sort of idea. So yeah, I totally didn't pay that ticket. I don't even feel bad. It was.
I hope people figure this out.
What's that?
I hope people figure this out and start trying to.
People are talking about it on TikTok a lot. They're talking about it on TikTok a lot, and so it's interesting to see how that all works. Because like debt is not they want to make it seem like something's tied to you forever, but it is something you can get free of. And government spending, by the way, shouldn't be carried as debt anyways. It should be carried as an investment in the population. Everyone that gets debt from the government should be able to have that debt wiped in some way. There should be no condition from the debt of the government that it becomes like a life sentence. Like it becomes like a mortgage, which is to death. So just
yeah.
And at the same time, you can't get a real mortgage.
Those rates are going to keep going up too.
Oh yeah, the housing market. Well, I think we're going to see a crash in the housing market too because of this. I think because no one's going to have any money to buy houses, like and the companies that bought all these houses are going to be losing so much money. Like we're going to see like people just getting rid of houses for like nothing. I think like this could collapse the housing market, which is good for people who want to get in the housing market, but bad for people who are in the housing market. So it's one of those like touch and goes, like like your grandpa's house, but everyone's inheriting houses these days, and it feels like in Los Angeles the word is you can only get a house if you're inheriting it. It's like so hard to buy a house unless you're like super wealthy, which is like partially true. So I want to pivot. Where are we at? We're doing good. My connection, honestly, after I changed my thing, it's not dipping the way it used to. It's kind of nice. So 48 minutes in. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Thank you all my staff and team for being here. As always, because these guys 2 hours we meet. We talk about meeting at 5:30. We meet at 5, and then we do the show at 7. And it's just, why is everyone so bad at everything they do? So I guess that's a perfect pivot to this CNN health article that came out having to do with BA3. And the title says, kids may be more likely to get the new cicada variant of COVID-19. Scientists say, here's what to know about BA3.2. We're actually going to do something we don't usually do. And that is I'm actually going to read this article and kind of go through why the stuff that's being said is problematic. And I'm going to agree with some of the things. I disagree with 99% of what Ryan Hisner's quoted on, but he made one point that actually made me go, okay, that's worth looking into, but I still don't think it's what's driving it. So BA3, just so you know, and they're going to explain this in this article, BA3 is one of the 5 lineages of Omicron, and it has never really done anything significant. BA3.2 is a very heavily mutated in the sense from where BA3 was, but not heavily mutated compared to where other mutational advances that we've had have gone. So BA2 has had jumps of like 75, 100. This is changing like 50 mutations. It seems like a lot, but it's not actually as much as it seems. And people who did get like BA1 and 2, BA1 and 3, or had those sort of things, have more immunity in some sense, and the thing that's it's going to be less severe. Now, I want to say something real fast. Severe or more severe when it comes to COVID infections does not take into account long COVID and the long-term negative effects of a COVID infection. So all this talk saying it's less severe on this person or more severe on that one is a concern when children are hospitalized and dying. I agree 100%. But overall, that does not negate the risk the way it is implied. There's like different ways of looking at COVID, and some people only see it as like death being the concern. But that's totally negating any concern for your quality of life. And when we talk about long COVID, it is a loss of quality of life that could lead to death. Very important. It's a very generalized way to look at it, but I feel like for the general public, if you put it into that context, it's like, yes, you did not die, but you also have lost a significant quality of life. You might have long-term symptoms. You might develop autoimmunity from a mild infection. And I feel like this is really, really important to assume, to not assume that you need a severe infection where you're hospitalized in order to have long-term outcomes. It's also that a lot of times, one of the things we don't talk about COVID is one of the things is it blocks pain receptors. So you don't feel the problems for quite some time, and the symptoms develop much later, and you don't easily connect them to COVID or long COVID because it's such a huge bevy of symptoms and there's so much misinformation. I haven't even made it into the first sentence. So it says a highly mutated variant of the virus that caused COVID-19 appears to be affecting primarily children, scientists say, though it's not causing more severe in kids or in adults. Now here's got a problem right off the bat. It is causing more severe disease in children. I think this is a huge mistake how they've and this comes down to an interpretation of a data point specifically that Hisner put out, where he interpreted more kids being hospitalized in Northeast showing up with BA.3.2 when they did sampling. There's like I'll be honest, it was a lot more kids that were hospitalized had BA.3.2 than anything else. That, by definition, means it's more severe. And I feel like that's the thing that got lost here when he misinterpreted that. He is helping hide the fact that BA.3.2, though not going to go dominant, may be more severe in children, and they are leading the conversation saying it's not causing more severe disease in kids or adults. So, like, the first sentence out the gates is totally wrong, problematic, and minimizing. So let's keep that in mind before we start celebrating this thing. Okay. Rather, experts say the fact that the virus is breaking with its pattern of being a menace, primarily of older adults, is a telling tale. So they're saying, can't make it through the second sentence. So this is less of an issue for older adults? Are they implying that older adults are now less of a concern, or are we children and older adults? And so younger adults don't have to worry about COVID anymore. If you're a healthy person, COVID's not an issue. Like, this is hardcore minimizing propaganda, just so we're on the same page. It's something to study and understand so scientists can better predict the behavior of this ever-evolving virus. Couldn't agree more. We need to understand this, and we need to be able to predict this, and that's why getting it wrong and ending up in some alternate dimension where you're talking about it is so problematic. So it says, although COVID-19 is circulating at very low levels right now, the U.S. is just starting to contend with a sleeper branch of the Omicron family, a variant called BA.3.2, which has been nicknamed cicada after the insect's ability to disappear and then reemerge after years underground. I hate these names, and I'm going to have a huge tirade about halfway through this article about why these names are so problematic. The cicada name is funny. I just because I don't just hate things automatically. It's funny, but I feel like it was labeled a variant of concern by the WHO when they named it, so I'll give them that. That is funny, but it is not, like, cicadas also do nothing. I don't know if you've ever seen a cicada, like, what they actually do. They, like, grow, they come out of the ground and they just do nothing. Something eats them, and you can, like, barbecue them, apparently.
At least they didn't go with groundhog. It could have gone with groundhog, you know? They come up out of the ground. That groundhog
bit Bill Murray twice on that shoot. Okay, those things are mean. Don't even.
Punxsutawney Phil, he's a real bastard.
So I mean, I hate the name thing, and I think sleeper branch Omicron tree is a fair thing to say. It is the name of the variant. It is, but they also start with, although COVID-19 is circulating at a very low level right now. That's true. But they don't mention the change in testing for like a couple more paragraphs. Oh no, they say in the next paragraph right here, but they should have said it right away, because the reason it's circulating at very low levels right now is we changed how we monitor COVID. So it's not really at low levels. Like, you can't relatively compare from measuring from the beginning of Omicron to now, because we changed the method by which we measure it without altering the chart. So the chart is not relative to each other correctly. So it may be circulating in low levels, but it could be the changes in how we measure it. And that's something that's so important to, like, immediately explain. Let me grab water 1 second. The variant has been spotted in 23 countries and in wastewater from 25 states. Okay, so just for the record, there are 180 some odd countries. And I don't know if you know this, but there are 50 states. We have variants spreading in 100% of countries, in 180 countries, and all 50 states, and we're just ignoring that. According
Ignoring
to
the rest of the world?
Yeah, exactly. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which quietly published a report on the virus last month. Quietly. Hey, Biff, are you there? Is the MMRW a quietly published report at the CDC?
I would not say so. I mean, it's the main report that they're known for. They have an entire staff, and it's released once a week, and most people interested in public health read it.
Very quiet. So it appears to be circulating in the U.S. at low levels, although testing has been scaled back since the height of the pandemic, so it may be more widespread than currently known. So they only use the explanation of testing as a way to minimize that it, like, to maximize the risk of something that is on the lower level of risk relatively. Like, they're maximizing the risk of a smaller thing by using this, instead of saying that the entire pattern of wastewater could be down because this testing. Like, they've separated these ideas, and so people won't easily connect them, even though they're only 2 paragraphs apart. So the current vaccines are still believed to offer some protection. This is true. And scientists say the new variant is so meh in terms of trouble it's been causing that it's not even clear whether we need to update the shots for better protection against it. And I feel like this is really important, that this is, the thing that pisses me off about this is the second the flu conversation, we did the flu meeting, and they were doing flu variants, immediately it started up with drama with the COVID variants. And if you aren't with us every year, this is a problem we deal with every year when we're trying to pick the variant and help from the public's end give, like, a good prediction. And we predicted things pretty much correctly the whole time. Where the next variant is going to go, and what happens is when you have all this drive in the public that BA.3.2 is the next big variant, but then it doesn't get selected for variant selection, you have all these people who we need to promote the vaccines saying, hey, they might not have picked the right variant. And I don't know, I just feel something like, when I tell people the flu vaccine doesn't match, like, I know it's going to hurt uptake, but it's not matching. We keep your mask on. Don't take off your... Because a lot of people get these vaccines and they think... And this is the other thing that ticks me off about this article. There's all these implications that the vaccines are, like, protecting you from infection, but they're just helping you clear infections faster. Which is true. That's what they do. I mean, the Novavax technically has the sterilizing effect, but when we talk about the mRNA vaccines, specifically, there's, like, no sterilizing effect anymore. Which is whatever, but it's not, it's not going to block infection. So this implication that there's this new variant and, like, now it won't block infection, like, it's way more about trying to make it seem and reaffirm that COVID did go away for a bit of time and now COVID is coming back. And what that does is it reaffirms all the people who decided not to listen to COVID conscious people about protecting themselves. Because even when we talk about masking, there are so many things to protect yourself from besides COVID. Like, I don't know if people know, COVID isn't the only airborne viral issue or, that we have. There's a lot going on. So even when, like, and so people associate COVID with wearing masks, not airborne viruses with wearing masks. So if they say COVID is low, they feel like, hey, I was right to ignore those people. Now, you might get them to listen to you now, but if BA.3.2 doesn't take off, you might lose them just as fast, and we're back in the exact same sort of problem, when in reality, XFG is everywhere, all over the place, with a ton of, like, subvariants. It's like 50% of the wastewater. Ugh.
And it's not causing damage, XFG.
Mm.
Like, it's not like it's not, spreading, without causing problems. And that this new variant is causing problems.
To be fair, it is causing problems.
That's what I mean.
Well, the BA.3.2 is potentially causing problems that you need to keep an eye on, and they're going to get to a couple theories in a minute in this article. But when it comes to why kids are getting hit harder, kids just have less immunity to BA.3.2 related stuff. Like the people who were here through Omicron from the beginning, like think about when Omicron first evolved, 2021. Right? 2022 was hitting us really hard. It went into BA2 mostly, pretty much right away. Right? So then it's all BA2. So all these young people who were literally not alive or avoiding COVID during early Omicron have no immunity to BA.3.2, or at least limited immunity. So that's a real thing, and that is a real thing that is a concern. And someone's going to bring that up in a minute. But This is something that we were talking about, like, well, why is this age bracket being hit particularly hard? Well, they don't have... It's the same reason you have to keep vaccinating children as they're born, because they don't have immunity. They're born without immunity. And this is... We can look at data all the way back to the Black Plague, because it also came in waves, but they were like 10 to 15 years apart for a while. And so babies and old people were the ones dying off by the second and third wave, only because they were either, had limited immune system from being older, or they had no immunity because they hadn't been exposed yet. So this is just kind of like, and I don't like the idea of talking about exposure for immunity as like a primary form of immunity, but we can understand this concept and why this is likely happening. It's not that anything has like the ability to infect kids more. That's stupid. That is a stupid thing to say. But it is because it's like you're going to get just infected. They're just going to get hit harder, which is back to it's likely more severe in these children, which they screwed up in the first sentence of this paper. Mm-hmm. And we have no one to blame for that other than these variant hunter group who totally misinterpreted the data point. So it says it's super interesting from a viral evolution standpoint. It is actually interesting, said Alex Greninger, head of Division of Infectious Disease Diagnostics at the University of Washington's Department of Laboratory Medicine. He noted that for a variant that first appeared in November 2024, it's certainly taking time to make a move, and it may end up having very little real-world impact. That's been about a year and a half that the thing has to run its course on to increase, Greninger said, and it's been done, and it hasn't done very much. It's not a nothing burger, but it's like adding grilled onions to your burger. I just want to take a second to stop real fast and say... We have a new contender for worst metaphor ever. The long-time running winner has been Peter Marks explaining how we needed different vaccines because people wanted different types of milk, which was laughed at, and then he still did it. I mean, literally, the whole room laughed at it. It was amazing. It was amazing. I wish you'd just go back and record that.
I don't really get this one, though. There's a nothing burger, but it has onions?
Yeah, but it's like adding grilled onions to your burger. You're like, so it's an extra... What does that mean? I would really like to see this metaphor mapped out in some kind of proof. But I get what he's saying in the sense that it's run its course, and it's already, when they say it's appeared in 26 countries over like 18 months, it hasn't been able to appear in all the countries at the same time. We've seen it go through Australia. It's currently going through Spain, right? It's going through Spain right now. It's starting in America. It's already waning in Spain. It pops in, it pops out. And the reasoning for this is because it does not spawn subvariants the way that JN1 does. JN1 spawns immune-evasive variants at this like crazy rapid rate where everything is immune to the previous one, so it has this really high reinfection risk. But with BA.2.3, it hasn't really created that many variants, and actually the variant we're dealing with now is not BA.3.2. It's its subvariant RE2. And RE2 is the one making its, like, it got that extra mutational jump, and it's making its rounds. But when you look at wastewater, the wastewater is going to say BA.3.2 because that's how we label wastewater. I don't think people realize that, like, when you look at wastewater and you see XFG, it is, like, dozens of subvariants included in that. So when you look at BA.3.2, it's just RE2. Like, I think people don't understand. So I think this is like super misleading when people think like, oh, it's this huge thing that's getting ready to take over. It's like There's no evidence it has the ability to take over. Doesn't have the things we would usually see when something's going to take over, and it hasn't been able to take over. Those are 3 different points, right? I think 1 and 2, 3 sounded really similar. Doing this on the fly, folks. So, like, it's really important to understand, like, it's good to have people worked up about COVID being real. They should just be worked up about real problems that are really happening, so that we can really protect people, not allow it to feed propaganda where it's like, oh, well, COVID was gone, now it's back. You're like, no, COVID never left. And that's not the right variant to focus on. These are the variants that are a problem, and they're super problematic. But, well, they're not causing a lot of disease. Thank goodness.
That's what I was trying to say before, unartfully. Like, it shouldn't diminish the rest of the COVID.
Right, and that's what it's being used to do. So this continues. Other experts agree. I don't believe that it should be included in the next vaccine, said Dr. Tulio de Oliveira, who directs the Center for Epidemic Response and Innovation, which is affiliated with the Stellenbosch University in South Africa. The nation has led the world in identifying new Omicron variants, including this one. That's because all the Omicron variants come from South Africa. If you didn't know, and I don't want to use this as demonize HIV patients, but the South Africa has the largest HIV population in the world, and it's a largely unmedicated population. So the immune, like, it's a problem. It's a real problem. Like, if we want to get COVID under control, really, we need to get HIV under control in South Africa. Sounds weird. Sounds sort of like bad, but it's super true. Like, it's Omicron emerged out of it, then all the other Omicrons emerged out of it. So it's just like we're just gonna have a constant state of emergence because we have this immune suppressed population where they can't clear infections. And also there's a lot of black market molnupiravir, the Merck drug. They call it something else now. I don't know what the new name is, because molnupiravir is hard to say and got a bad name, so they call it another drug. But there's a huge black market molnupiravir there, so people aren't getting full doses, and then that leads to more extreme mutations. So that's like, it gets produced in India and then the black market in South Africa, because for a long time, the South African government didn't allow those drugs. So there's like a healthy black market for it. And so this whole question on whether or not the government was directly involved with the black market. And I was writing about this like 3 years ago. It's a real, I had articles and the whole thing breaking down what was happening.
But the people who are immunocompromised, that's like sort of a breeding ground for recombinants and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, just mutations in general. Because the longer people are infected, T. Ryan Gregory makes a point about it in the article coming up, but he explains it wrong, and I'll explain why he explains it wrong. But that is something that occurs. He's right to say it happens. It does happen, and we've seen, like, it's believed that BA1 and BA2 emerged out of the same person. Like, they were sick for so long that, like, BA2 was a extension of it in the same
wow.
thing. Yeah, that's in my long COVID article, actually. So they think that that's one person. So yeah. So at the moment, with previous immunity and previous vaccination, we're not seeing signs of increased hospitalization and death. And besides that, Olivia said, it doesn't seem like the public has a big appetite for a new vaccination campaign. First off, hate that. Just put on a better vaccination campaign, and people have the appetite for it, and put it up with better vaccines, and then they'll really want it, because nobody wants to be sick all the time, and most people do think vaccines work. But I do think he's right. It kind of builds the thing I was saying about how more people had BA3 exposure or earlier BA1, 2 that were closer to BA3. So, like, older people are more likely to have more... I fucking hate saying this. I hate saying this, but it's true. Where they'll have more immunity. They're not negating their long COVID risk. It is lower. It is lower, but it's still, in some cases, you could have maximum long COVID. So, like, it's real important to say it is lower, but it's still, like, not enough to be like, this is safe. So, it's at the moment, I already read that. And it's more important, he thinks, to keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't change in ways that would cause it to be a problem. That's 100% true. Definitely need to keep an eye on BA3.2. But we have been keeping an eye on BA3.2 because I don't know if you guys know this. It's in our presentation from last year. So when we were deciding vaccines for 2020, for this last season, 2025-2026 season, BA3.2 is in the cartography. So people who want to be like, oh, it's brand new. No, God, we've been watching this for a year already. And this is where things take a dark turn. Cicadas disappearing routine. Scientists who hunt for unusual COVID-19 variants waiting to get this one a colloquial or common name. It has still look like it will take off or will be a wider interest, or else we don't see a nickname as being useful, says Dr. T. Ryan Gregory, an evolutionary biologist at the University of, was it Guelph? Guelph? How do I say that? Do I say Guelph? How do I say Guelph?
Well.
Guelph. Okay. Guelph in Canada. Sorry, I guess some people are make sure you say the Canadian words right.
It's a very scientific-based university.
It's a good university.
Yeah.
Okay, very scientific, she says.
Very scientific, yeah.
It's too bad they don't hire more scientific people. Anyways, he and a group of fellow variant hunters started discussing names for BA.3.2 around the World Health Organization designated a variant before monitoring in December. The same group was given previous notable variants the names of mythological creatures, constellations, and even types of clouds. Okay, so here's the deal. If we hear Stratus is spreading, can someone Google Stratus and find it on the CDC wastewater data? Can someone look that up? If they see XFG somewhere else, do they know that they're talking about the same thing? Or if maybe we just called it XFG the whole time and said it's the variant of concern, people could then look it up and figure out what's going on their own. They could be educated on this. Instead, we've made up these mystical names that essentially hide variants, because just like the wastewater data, all these variants have tons of subvariants. And what they've done is they've hidden reinfection risk. And why this is so problematic is because of what makes JN1 variants distinct from other variants, and that is the preference of immune evasion to the previous antibodies. So it's developing immune evasion within itself to itself. So when you call it Cerberus, it makes it seem like one variant is all there is to infect you, when there's like 30 different variants to infect you in sequence forever. So it makes it seem like COVID is less of an issue than it actually is, and it makes it impossible for people to research this on their own. In addition to that, people cannot they're completely dependent upon interpretation from people who use these words, who are not giving the correct interpretations. So you basically kneecapped everybody into this pile where they are totally dependent and cannot get real information from any other source unless these terms are used. And then when they are used, they're used to hide the volume of immune evasive variants that might reinfect you. Like, it's so stupid. What really pisses me off is, like, this happened when we started doing, like, I was complaining about this on my old account when they started doing, like, Beta, Omega, all those other things. There's too many variants. You need to use the Pango lineages. And we could have used all this time to train people to understand Pango lineages, which is not that complicated. Instead, we've totally wasted all this time and bungled it by letting these buffoons name things that just to minimize. And if you actually talk to these guys, all they do is minimize COVID or talk about they don't wear masks or promote non-mask wearing stuff. These people are not on the peak of COVID consciousness when it actually comes down to it. And it's freaking ridiculous how people eat this up. And I got a big problem with it because people are getting hurt and reinfected and more long COVID. It's the same people who are saying all this doesn't include long COVID are using these stupid names, making people put in more long COVID risk. That being said, I agree with this next line. Cicada seems to be the right fit for this one because it's done the same kind of disappearing routine. They should finish that sentence with, and it doesn't do anything. Anyways, it is appearing on our wastewater. It did just appear in our wastewater at 11%, right?
Yeah, that's our U.S. wastewater.
Yeah, it's our U.S. wastewater. It did appear. And we get new wastewater on Friday. I assume it's going to be somewhere between 11 and 15%. I expect that. I expect that to come in, but we're going to see what it displaces, and that's kind of been its routine, where it comes in for like 11 to 15%, maybe it gets up to 25, and then it just dwindles down because it doesn't create subvariants that have this high reinfection risk. So it doesn't have the ability to stay dominant because JN1 is spitting out immune-evasive variants. So whatever immunity the people get from their BA.3.2 infection, JN1 is immediately figuring out how to beat it, and that's what's going to happen. It's either going to be recombinant or JN1 is going to spawn more immune-evasive variants. So whatever BA.3.2 creates, BA.3.2 is not going to create more subvariants because it hasn't done that effectively in 18 months.
And when you say JN1, you mean that the XFG type they come from JN1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure people understand.
You're talking about XFG. Oh, excuse me. You're talking about JN1. You're talking about LP81, NB181, and XFG, which is now has XFG.1, which is now enough of the chart that it has its own thing. And then when you actually get into the below 5% designations, every single one is an XFG variant. The only variants that show up at all are BA.3.2 and RE and they're under each other. And then NB181 is making a jump worldwide. So I had said in my last year's presentation that I thought sticking with JN1 was the right move because Novavax didn't need to make the move. Picking KP2 did actually work out, in fairness. They did run into some problems with it, but it doesn't last for long enough for that problem to really manifest. And we did get lucky because, and I want to be positive about mRNA for a second, because KP2 and LP81 are so close to each other, it updated people's memory responses. So we're going to get some data in a couple months showing, I think we're going to get data showing the LP81 vaccines worked really well as far as limiting hospitalization and death. Not long COVID, but it does limit long COVID, but not like completely, because people are still getting long-term degenerative issues from persistent COVID. Because COVID is persistent, it's degenerative, it forms syncytia. I don't even know. Even these people don't talk about this. It's naturally degenerative. It's like the difference between vaccine injury and long COVID is that long COVID is degenerative over a long period, while vaccine injury can mimic ME/CFS and cause all these other issues. We can actually learn a lot about that, about what is causing ME/CFS, the fact that we see that from just vaccine injury. But there's a lot of data points that take into effect that we don't when we talk about it. But but you talk about the degenerative nature, and like long COVID is forming syncytia, and it's degenerating your body, and we see it in people dying, we see it in people wasting, we see it, and just so you know, we don't think that we don't consider HIV causing ME/CFS because it's just a part of HIV, but it's ME/CFS. So it's like contested on whether or not to call it that, probably just, you know, anti-ME/CFS sentiment in general, but like we see the same thing in that capacity. So it's sort of like, I don't know, it's ridiculous that we're not learning as much as we could from all this. So when Omicron swept the globe in late 2021, genetic testing picked up 5 primary branches of the family tree. 4 of those branches have since driven waves of infection around the world, but one, dubbed BA.3.2, was an exception. It was the first detected in 2022, and then mysteriously went silent. I agree, mysteriously is a great... We used to think it was recombinant between BA.2 and BA.3, but BA.1 and BA.2, we don't... That's not what they think anymore. So I just think that for 2 years, BA.3 infected a single person who didn't have enough immune function to completely fight it off, Gregory said. These kinds of chronic infections are a prolonged war between the virus and the immune system, which the body exerts pressure on the virus that makes it constantly change. In some cases, after a long-term infection, the virus is able to reemerge and begin in circulation again, as seems to have happened in this case. Okay, so there's a bunch of different ideas being explained wrong in here. I think it looks real important. Now this does happen. We talked about this earlier. But BA.1 and 2 things came from the same person. That person was immune compromised. This is a chronic infection. But the concept of reemergence, and the thing is when this happens, these people are chronically infected, so the virus doesn't reemerge and begin to circulate again. That person is just always infecting people. He's always infectious, and eventually they affect somebody. So it's not really the same as the reemergence. And we talk about this in influenza, because in influenza, like, they're not removing the vaccine that went, or the virus that went extinct from worldwide vaccines yet. They only did it in America because Yamagata, I think it was, something like that. Because there's the possibility of something called, oh wow, I can't believe I'm forgetting it. It's when they reemerge. There's a really fun name for it. Oh, it'll come back to me in a minute. There's a really fun name for it. That you can look up and learn all about it. But basically, the idea is RNA viruses can be broken inside of, like, the RNA strand itself can be broken and still infect cells or have infected cells. And if they can find a matching piece of RNA, they can reform into a full piece of RNA, infect that nucleus again, and continue reproducing virus. And that is called reemergence. When we talk about with COVID, and this is a thing that happens, but there is a big gap between being chronically infected, because this sort of negates the idea of persistence. Like, he's sort of minimizing, like, by conflating these two ideas, he's kind of talking away persistence, because the thing about reemergence is it has to do with persistence. You have RNA code, either whole RNA code replicating that eventually gains enough mutations in order to reemerge, or you have RNA code recombining in order to reemerge. And these are both ideas that have to do with persistence. The idea that someone is chronically infected for a prolonged period of BA.3, the reason we know that this didn't happen is because we would have evidence of this person. When we have a chronically infected person who's getting new viruses, people write studies on them. Like, they're in hospitals. They're not, like, at home. So this means that BA3 has just been circulating in low volumes in South Africa this whole time, and it has reemerged because it gained these new things and got out of South Africa. So you got these people who don't have as much immunity to BA3, and it always comes from travelers, and then it doesn't really pick up, but sometimes we have a little bit more severe disease because people don't have that innate immunity that we've gained from all these other viruses because it's on a different part of the thing. Ability to go, like, we conflate these ideas, just like in this right now when we talk about immune evasion, right? Like I feel like they've made a big mistake in how they talk about BA3.2, is that it is not immune evasive to antibodies. Wait, no, it is immune evasive to antibodies. So is it? But no, but it's not the same immune evasiveness from XFG. It's genetically distinct from XFG. So it has natural immune evasion to some degree, but it's not the same as a variant prioritizing immune evasion in its genetic mutation process, like the same way JN1 does. BA3.2 doesn't do that. That's why it can't get a foothold, because it doesn't spawn a ton of subvariants that all detect under 5%, so we group them all together to show it's high in the wastewater. That's what XFG does. That's why there's so much XFG. And frankly, if we did have just less severe disease from XFG, that's fantastic. Like, I hate those people who are like, well, it's not causing bad. Why are they saying like it's a bad thing? Anyways, in November 2024, BA3.2 popped up in his nose swab of a 5-year-old boy in South Africa. And it looks very different than its parent variant. So a 5-year-old got it, and the thing immediately discrediting whatever nonsense he said, because it spread to somebody. Normally, new offshoots of variants may have a handful of gene changes compared to the virus they evolved from. BA3.2 has 53 changes to its spike, the part that docks onto cells, compared with BA3, and roughly 70 mutations compared with the original coronavirus that emerged in 2019. I need people to understand that 53 changes is like medium a lot. It's not actually a lot. Like when we look at the cartography, BA3.2 is far from the XFG, JN1, those groupings, but it's not like far away like BA5 or XF. Like when we did the XBB 1.5 change, it was like at least a third as much. I can't remember what it was, but I'm writing an article and I'm going to look it up and get all the data together to show like this is not what they're making it seem like. Oh, it's so much. It's really not, because even when you look at it, BA3 only has 20 mutational shifts from the original virus. Like it's just like how it's presented is so different than how it actually is. It's very frustrating. So it was first picked up in the U.S. last summer in a traveler from the Netherlands. So it's been here since last summer in the U.S. In January, the first clinical sample from a sick patient turned out to be BA3.2. I still don't understand that sentence. I think they're saying that the first clinical sample of the year was BA3.2. So January 1st when they tested somebody, I think. It's a weird sentence. Its numerous changes might help it slip past immunity created by past infections and vaccinations, but unlike other highly mutated variants, this one hasn't shown any signs of global dominance. So, again, they're explaining this idea wrong, because it's not the numerous changes that might help it slip past the immunity, it's the being genetically distinct that helps it get through the immunity. So those changes from BA3 to BA3.2 don't make it more immune evasive than BA3 was initially. It just shows that it's immune evasive because no one really got BA3. It was very, very limited spread. So just this whole thing of how they're explaining this to the public is not correct. It's genetically distinct, and that's very important. Somewhere along the way, BA3.2 lost its ability to bind tightly to ACE2 receptors on cells, the doorway the virus needs to go through to cause infections. This means it's been a middling competitor on the global scene and hasn't driven new waves of disease. I have not seen this data. I cannot comment on it. I want to look. I'm going to look at it when I go to write my article so we can see and validate if this is true or not. If it is, it's pretty much the end of the conversation. BA3.2 doesn't even currently show up in the national picture. What do they use for this? I didn't check this source. They use variant proportions. Oh, but it doesn't show up. They're using Nowcast. So it does show up. I think this is also wrong because it does show up in the national wastewater. It just showed up this week. I feel like that's wrong. So, though it is picking up steam, according to Dr. Mark Johnson, a professor of molecular microbiology and immunology at the University of Missouri School of Medicine, who closely tracks the presence of virus in wastewater. I talked to Mark Johnson many times over the years, and I don't know if he's intentionally difficult or if he just doesn't understand the content, which is weird because he's like a professor and stuff. But you explain things to him, and he just cannot. Like, he is incapable of realizing. Like, there's a saying, the problem with people is when they don't know what they don't know. And I feel like with our group, one of our things we talk about is that we do know what we don't know. And so when you're looking at, like, what these guys are talking about, you're looking at like, they should understand this stuff. They should be able to look at the Novavax data, for example, and understand that Novavax has a higher response over a longer amount of time, and they're just like, no, I only see this. And this is what really ticks me off about these guys, this whole variant selection. They're always, I'm not saying they're being paid by Pfizer. I'm not. I mean, I might have said that during pre-call. But if they were to be being paid by Pfizer, they're saying what Pfizer would want them to say, because they're always talking about what's the new big thing to try to sell their product. And they have this same messaging, and they just get like locked into arguments, and they refuse to see another argument or another position. Like, they're unwilling to take a second and be like, well, I don't know. You know, like, you'll never hear that come out of these people's mouths. So because I think there's a very good chance BA.3.2 will become the dominant variant, but it certainly isn't sweeping variant like many we've seen before. I think if BA.3.2 were a mutation away from being a more aggressive variant, it would have found it by now. It did. It's called RE.
And it hasn't really had the ability to become dominant really anywhere, right?
No, it does have the ability to break through immunity briefly, you know. And I think the thing about hitting kids and people who don't have any innate immunity, like more hospitalizations than those, I think is very likely. They're gonna get into this in a little bit more. But it is weird how Mark goes on to like doubt himself. He's like, I think it will become dominant, but I think if it could find a mutation, it would have found it by now. It's like he like discredited his own quote. It's a weird quote to give. Anyways, I'm sure he said more to them. That's what they went with, so I'm sure they're being kind of mean. In Germany, where BA.3 has accounted for an estimate 30% of all new COVID infections from November through January, it's now showing signs of decline, said Florian Kramer, a virologist and professor of vaccinology at Mount Sinai Icahn School of Medicine in New York. Another person who I've argued with a few times, but actually does slightly better, but not much.
So it peaked out at 30%, and then it petered off.
It's what it's done everywhere. 30% is even high for most. It is higher than usual, but that could be a statement about a lot of things because it's relative. Because it's a zero-sum system, right? So, like, I'm not going to explain that well. I'm going to back away from that. There's a lot of issues with it.
But 30% might not be dominant, and it also petered off.
Yes, 30% is not dominant. 30% is worth the WHO putting the warning on it. You know,
right?
Germany had a lot of cases, and it looked like it's going up and dominating, but it's kind of stalled, and I think it's actually going to go down a little. I think it's actually going down a little bit. He said. Kramer and his team on his Kramer. I always say his name Kramer, but it might be Kramer. I'm not sure. And his team published a study looking at how well COVID-19 vaccines were updated for the winter 24-25 to specifically target the KP2 strain. Another Omicron descendant performed against a number of emerging variants, including BA.3.2. Although vaccine-created antibodies didn't snuff out some variants, it seemed to take care of BA.3.2 pretty quickly. I feel like it's really important to say KP2 was the year before last vaccine. So they were testing... The people saying it's new, they were testing the KP2 vaccine against the BA.3.2 strain because that's how long ago it was.
That was the 2024 strain selection, right?
24, 25.
Yeah.
Our results may explain why this variant has not achieved high transmission rates globally, the study authors wrote. Okay, we're getting to the meat. Infecting kids quite efficiently. Quoting quite efficiently. A lack of genetic sequencing of COVID-19 viruses makes it difficult to interpret patterns and spread. Not going to fight him on that. The one interesting thing that's left out of the data, the variant seems to be better at infecting kids than adults. The data we have shows it's better at putting kids in the hospital than adults. So it makes it more severe in children. And they're just really screwing that up. One thing that we found is that the BA.3.2 seems to infect children, not infants, but children between 3 and 15 years old, quite efficiently, which we did not know why. We do not know why yet, said Oliveira from South Africa. Analysis of data from New York City from variant sleuth Ryan Hisner shows that kids are about 5 times more likely to be infected by BA.3.2 compared with other variants, although BA.3.2 still represents a minority of variants in the mix there. I mean, that's just like the data. I posted about that. They've misinterpreted this data point. I don't really know what to say about it. It's just, again, it's burying the lead that it might be more severe in children because the whole data point. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe hey, if somebody wants to correct me, by all means, I'm open to being wrong. But the data points that I saw was that there were more hospitalized kids, and we can almost universally say that when we're talking about testing right now, no one is going to get like PCRs on their own. I mean, it does happen, but it's very, very rare. PCR stuff's like dropped off completely. Usually now, if we're going to get one of these tests, it's because a kid is hospitalized, and we want to know why they're hospitalized. And that's why most of the genetic testing we're going to get is going to come from a hospital of some kind. So it's going to capture the ones that are more likely to hospital people more often. It's still a generalization, but it's a generalization we can kind of run with and not be afraid of. So I think that like it's very easy to say if you have more kids in hospitals showing up with BA32 detection, then it is more severe in children. And that is the takeaway that we are just want to make up magic around to try to explain a different way.
Yeah, if they're ending up in the hospital, it's a more severe acute infection.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't really like the severe and mild conversation, but it is relevant for how we interpret the data.
Yeah, they're in the hospital.
They're in the hospital. That sounds more severe to me. I haven't been in the hospital, I don't think, for myself. Like stitches, once, I think. And even then it was like, when I got stabbed. That was the last time I was in the hospital, when I got stabbed. I was 18, a long time ago. I got stabbed 4 times. It's a funny story. Anyways.
Sounds like a left riot.
It is actually a great story, but I'm not telling it right now. It is a fantastic story. I'll tell it another time. It's very like film noir because there's like a moment where I'm like, I didn't know I was stabbed yet, and I've just been stabbed 4 times. The other guy cuts his hand because he stabs me in the head, slices his own hand open, and I'm standing under like the only street light in the whole like street. And he's like, you stabbed me, yelling at me that I stabbed him, that I was going to jail. And I'm like, what do you mean people got stabbed? And I look down, and I'm just covered in blood, head to toe. Just head to toe, covered in blood. Head to toe.
Whoa.
Yeah, I had an ulterior bleed. If I turned my head to the left, the blood hit the ceiling. It was fucking intense. I didn't feel anything, so I beat the crap out of that guy. It's the only real fight I've ever really been in. I just leveled the dude, and I got stabbed 4 times. So I don't know. Was it worth it? Yes. So anyways,
You're here to tell the story.
Yeah, I'll tell the whole story another time. Anyways, I'm off subjects. There's a number of theories. So let's start at the top. Analysis of data from University of Variant Sleuth Ryan Hisner shows that kids are about 5 times more likely to be infected by BA32 compared with other variants, although BA32 still represents a minority of variants in the mix there, which is like, I feel like that's actually really, if it is infecting kids 5 times more likely, and it represents a minority of variants, that's the headline. That's scary. They've totally misinterpreted it and screwed it up. There are a number of theories about why Olivier said, and he believes that BA32 is better infecting kids because their immune protection from vaccines and past infection wanes more quickly than that of adults. Okay. Hisner thinks it may be something to do with the missing parts of the virus genome. BA32 viruses are lacking parts of specific genes that play a role in activating the immune system. One other variant, XBB, which also missing these same parts of its genome, Hisner said, and that it showed up more often than other variants in kids. Now, I want to say something. I like this theory. But he got it wrong again because he says specifically BA32 viruses are lacking parts of specific genes that play a role in activating the immune system, which means the disease is going to be more severe. So he has proven in his own theory that is an issue with severity, not infection risk, because why would the role in activating the immune system make it more infectious? That's not how that works. It would make it more severe because the infection is allowed to get out of control for a longer period of time before the immune system steps in. So even in his own theory, he validates that he has misread this data point and what it actually means. So Hisner says, Greninger at the University of Washington said it may also have something to do with the number of exposures to COVID the kids have had. I think that's a real important factor because this isn't a specific bracket of kids who were avoiding COVID more often or have limited immunity to COVID or probably have never gotten vaccinated too. So when you're thinking about this emerged in Omicron emerged in 2022, like there are 3-year-olds that are alive longer than this variant was on the table. And back then we had more kids avoiding COVID. So there's going to be less infection in those groups. Does anyone know the answer to this? What variant did we first approve for kids? Was it the original? It was the original vaccine, right?
What you're saying was the first COVID vaccine were kids able to get it?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think it was the first.
I'm kind of foggy on
I
that.
think it was the first one. But but again, like the guy says, people don't have an appetite for vaccine campaigns. Fewer people are getting vaccinated. We really need to get Novavax approved for kids, so we don't have this IgG4 problem in children. It just goes on. So let's see. Each vaccine helps take on the person's immune response. They're better equipped to take on the next variant of the same virus, no matter how different it looks. This is true. Does not negate long COVID risk, but it does mean you're less likely to die. But the thing is people don't die from COVID infections anymore. You die because COVID is so degenerative, your body just fails somewhere else. So this whole logic chain that they're on, that it does this, is technically true, but it doesn't apply to syncytial viruses that started ACE2. So it means it can just make supernucleic cells out of any part of your body, including bone at times, which is crazy to think about because there's limited ACE2 in bones. But it doesn't need ACE2 because it's syncytia. It just needs to start at ACE2. And I think this is the thing that gets really lost in COVID studies, is that it starts at ACE2, but once it has a cell infected, it can take multiple other pathways to infect cells. So it goes, immune histories kind of hedge against viral evolution a little bit better, he said. Kids just don't have much of an immune history as adults, so our toolbox is more limited when they don't have time. That's true. That is true. That will lead to more hospitalizations. That is true. Granger also points out the kids are at another disadvantage, especially if they're in school or daycare. They're surrounded by germs all day, so they're easy marks. He said the idea that one COVID variant might be better at infecting kids just means it's behaving like any other respiratory virus, such as flu, which classically spreads from school-age children to their parents and grandparents each season. I don't think that argument that he made right there proves that it is more infectious of kids. It's just that kids are put into more risky situations, and they're less likely to identify symptoms. So you're going to have a kid who is sick but not sick enough to stay home that is more likely to go to school. And I feel like this is more of a problem. This last paragraph is more of a problem with capitalism than it is like what the variants are doing. You know, like capitalism forces us to throw our kids into even when they're a little sick, so all the kids get sick. It doesn't mean that the variant is more likely to infect kids. It means you're putting kids around more germs. And what do you think is going to happen?
And kids like that, for earlier sentence, they might be naive to the infection altogether.
Yeah, my biggest problem with this is that they really built this idea that like COVID went away. It's really like, see, we weren't paying attention, and now there's a new mutated variant. What? We weren't paying attention. There's like 1,000 new mutated variants. What are you talking about? And then people go, why are you minimizing this risk? No, I'm not minimizing this risk. You're talking about like 5% of waste or 11% of wastewater. Like in 18 months, it's managed to become 11% of wastewater this last week, or I guess it was the week before last. And it's going to go up a little bit, but not a ton. And it's going to do a little thing, and then it's going to die out, and hopefully it dies out before we're doing variant selection. Because we have a really hard pick this year between, I think, some type of XFG subvariant and NB181. And I think that, like, if you're a Novavax user, Novavax has a user. If you use Novavax, it's just like, if you shoot up, Novavax. So we learned recently that, on a side note, that heroin is a brand name. By the way, it was an actual name of a real drug. It became the informal name. I'm gonna make shoot up jokes. I feel like I have to share that one.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, we learned this the other day. Where I think it's Bayer, a German company, owns it. The original heroin was thing, and then we call it dicetyl morphine or something like that. Something like that? I can't remember what it is. I said it wrong.
So heroin is like
a
Kleenex.
Brand.
And
Yeah,
tissue.
yeah. Heroin is like Kleenex for opium. Yeah. Yeah, so just heads up, we learn new things on the show.
Did not know that.
Yeah, man, we're all trying to teach each other. So if you say that, you're not like being like you're just pushing Bayer's messaging, I guess. You're like, you pharma shill.
Corporate shit.
This is the worst marketing campaign in existence. I'll say that. So yeah. So I want to go back. I do need to wrap it up. I got the finger wave from my wife I warned about earlier in the show. She said, it's time. You've been talking. Nobody wants to listen to you this long. She's probably right. So not what she said, but it was in her eyes. Mostly, I think she doesn't want to listen to me anymore.
I gotta go
Mm.
I know. Okay. So, I want to say, like, they've made a huge misstep in how we talk about this with the public. The COVID conscious people are supposed to be educating people are making an enormous misstep, and they don't see it. And I feel like this happens a lot. And so, how we're handling BA.3.2 is all wrong, and it's not in the same sense it should minimize risk. It's something that we should watch, and there's a possibility that not this year, but the year after, we could be looking at BA.3.2. Or even further, last meeting at VRBPAC, we got VRBPAC to commit to, sort of loosely commit, that they would meet if there was a new variant shift. They said that to us. So I think the real takeaway from this is we should use this to push for VRBPAC meetings that align with the every 6-month WHO meetings, so we can reevaluate if the vaccines are still working should we have a new virus emerge. I think doing the once-a-year scheduling is the big thing, making this conversation harder. We should be meeting every 6 months. It should be a part of VRBPAC. It doesn't mean you need to update every time, but we should be reviewing, and we should open up data, because it's not a winter issue. It's a year-round issue, and we should be looking at surges year-round and using the Ivy network and the other network data that we use, if they still exist after they've gutted the CDC so hard. But we should be using those networks to look at that data and reassess what's going on, see if people need, like for Novavax, you can get a new booster to increase the range of your antibodies, or increase the fold of your antibodies, so they reach more variants that might have emerged later. It would be a super useful tool. It would help increase vaccination. And if the vaccines are working, like the LPA1 vaccine worked really well, we should tell people it worked really well. Like, I want people to get Novavax, but I also want people to think vaccines work. And I think my beef with mRNA is they're selling to people that vaccines work when they don't. They can see what they realize they're not. So when it does work, we should say that, and it needs to be backed up by actual outcomes. And that's just sort of the thing. And I think the same thing is true of how we talk about viral evolution. It's disappointing to hear all these professors and teachers, like, these are the people teaching our children about how these work, and they're just teaching all of these subjects wrong. They're not, and the other thing is they don't show up at the meetings. The meetings, we got WHO and the CDC and all these experts explaining things and reaffirming things we already thought, or adding new things we didn't know, or explaining things better than how we thought it worked. And these people don't show up, they don't participate, and they just want to pretend like they cosplay like they're experts. And, like, it's super dangerous. It's super damaging. And people might be like, Dawn, you're cosplay. I show up at the meetings. I put up the presentations. I help engage with the conversations. We contact the experts. Outside of this, we're right now trying to push for an earlier COVID season. We want the WHO to meet earlier, so they should meet in April instead of May. We should all meet in April, and then the this new vaccine should come out before the school year starts. If you really care about kids getting infected, why aren't we putting pressure on getting the vaccines out in time for school to start? That's why this is all a bunch of bullshit from these people. It's not real. They don't really care about these issues. They just want you to think they care about this one narrow issue because they have some, I don't understand what they're betting. Getting articles written about them where they look like fools. I mean, it's just they have them talk, and then they have real experts talk, and like, yeah. And then people are mad. They're calling it a nothing burger. The guy literally said it's not a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger with onions.
Side of lettuce.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Veggies on the side. All right. Is anyone have anything they want to add? I gotta wrap this up, and my throat gave way on me like 30 minutes ago. So, you got anything you want to add? Anything illegitimate we should know about going on, Jesse?
Well, just sort of the similar thing I said before is that all wars end with negotiations, and in order for we need accountability. In order for a better world, we need to hold these people accountable for war crimes.
Trump is a legal war. This is a legal war outside of his right as president. It is not within his realm. The Supreme Court immunity, in my opinion, does not protect him from this. Absolutely is a war crime, and he should be impeached for it, and then in jail. And putting him in American jail would make him better off than putting him in an international jail, because I'm pretty sure for this level of war crimes, we have really clear, short walks off long walks off short piers, or whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, they have pretty clear rules on how this works.
It's initiating a war of aggression is the supreme international crime as cited at Nuremberg, and Nazis were hung for this. But we seem to just kind of like, okay, You know, he just did this.
Make hanging
Move on.
Nazis great again. Is that? Am I getting in
I'm
trouble
not
for saying
saying
that?
I'm not saying we have to hang him. I'm saying we need the world needs to.
It's so
we
sorry.
have
I'll say it right. I'll
accountability.
say it right. Make hanging Nazis great again. A direct quote from Jesse, probably.
Is there an acronym in there?
I
somewhere?
don't know. I think there's an extra letter. I gotta look it up.
But,
Yeah, we don't do math on the show. All right, folks, I gotta wrap it up. Thank you everyone for hanging in there. Thank you to my staff who stayed late. I got East Coasters in here who are hanging out longer. Seems like we've gotten this drop issue fixed. Please, give us a share or or hey, disagree with us. You think I said something wrong? Got something wrong? Challenge it. Put it into the comments. Do whatever you gotta do. Give us a like and a follow. We're also on YouTube for whatever that's worth. So if you do like our content, give us a follow on YouTube. It does help. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. We will be back on, oh my God, what day of the week is it? It's Thursday, right? We'll be back on